You click it, I punch that ticket. Now, just 1 second. Now, I don't speak Morse code, but it sounded like that clicker's time was up. Wait a minute. What's this? This looks exactly like the game that challenged, then changed my perspective on zombie-themed post-apocalyptic games. Could it be? It's not. It's 50 Cent Bulletproof. Well, I'm sure The Last of Us is here somewhere. Hello, fellow YouTubers. I'm Adrian.exe. In case the intro didn't make it entirely clear, I'm reviewing the remastered version of The Last of Us. What? Okay, you got me. I purchased the digital version of the game. I know I can hear your boos already, but in my defense, it was more convenient. The Last of Us 1, the golden standard for games set in the apocalyptic, action-oriented horror genre, and a series that incentivized me to get a PS4. It's a game that is probably universally held as one of the greatest games in modern gaming history. That's right, I won't be comparing it to classics like Prehistoric Tennis, better known as Pong, or anything less than 64 bits. It's a game that poses questions like, could a person hold on to some form of ethics in a lawless society? What mentality should one adapt in a post-apocalyptic world to remain sane and survive? Is survival worth trading in your humanity? In The Last of Us, you play as Ellie and Joel, two protagonists that are fated to walk throughout a fire-stricken version of Earth in hopes of surviving and establishing a normal life. I'm sure this game has never been more relatable. For the most part, you play as Joel, an old man Logan type of character that is long past his days of dispositional optimism and onto his days as a pessimistic realist.
But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good.
Unlike other zombie-related games, this game, excluding the DLC, doesn't give you much of a choice in terms of how you play. You take on the role of Joel, and take on his form of ethics. You can choose to take a more peaceful route as you play, but it would be an understatement to say that there is hardly room to be a pacifist. Joel's ruthlessness makes him less personable, in my opinion, but allows the player to identify with him in a unique way. That is to say, the personality traits that Joel displays are traits that players can relate to or identify with. Like the kindness he shows Tess and Ellie, his persistence to succeed, or his ability to absorb bullets like Tony Montana, or... Damn it! Don't mind them. They're just the reference investigation unit. They come out anytime somebody makes too many references, but it's understandable. People make a lot of references. I'm sure they're not here because of me. Joel becomes more relatable, or at the very least we come to understand him more once the player comes to understand the world of The Last of Us and his view of it. From the perspective we are given, there are very few people who display any form of empathy or are trustworthy, and it seems like the only way to survive is to be merciless, cynical, and callous. We become more familiar with this mindset when Joel, a man of a few words but many deadly actions, shares his proverbs for survival.
And just so we're clear about back there, it was either him or me.
Well, every battle's got a losing side.
What if they had families?
Everyone has a family. Best not to dwell on it. Things happen, and we move on.
To be more concise, anyone living in his world must do whatever it takes to survive. It's kill or be killed, and allowing yourself to trust anyone is rare. We will delve deeper into the world-building aspect of the game a little later. Just like in The Walking Dead, humanity now adheres to a more potent form of tribalism, with each group having its own unique set of values, which is guided by an instinctual need to survive. The former is evidenced by the many factions in the game, like the Hunters, Fireflies, and Fedra, and the latter is evidenced by the use of ration cards. The tribes may vary in size, but this group mentality is pervasive throughout the game and adds a layer of conflict while informing the player about the type of people inhabiting this world. As the game's story progresses, you'll start to notice that you get to know the characters through dialogue shared in-game.
Would you play this before?
No. But I had a friend that knew everything about this game. Apparently, there's this character called Angel Knives who'd... what was it? She'd punch a hole through your stomach before kicking your head off.
I was never a big fan of these things.
Their reactions to what's happening in real time.
See that wire? Stay underneath it, okay? Just keep your head low and you'll be fine.
All right.
Behaviors that highlight their personality.
Fireflies. I mean, real fireflies.
Yeah, I see that.
Sorry. I lost myself for a sec.
Or even recordings. Honestly, some of these interactions actually caught me off guard. I genuinely didn't expect to hear Ellie react to how I brutally murdered someone.
Joel?
Or hear her learning to whistle.
I'm whistling.
Oh, good. Something else you can drive me crazy with.
Or even expect to hear a casual conversation about the world as it used to be before the virus outbreak.
Henry told me about these. They sell ice cream out of the truck.
What? No way, Joel.
That's true. This thing would drive around and play real loud, creepy music, and kids would come running out to buy ice cream.
You're totally fucking with me.
Serious.
I almost forgot how many aspects of my regular life that I take for granted, which is why I found those conversations intriguing and relatable. I mean, does anyone remember what the mall was like? Or what the bottom half of your face looks like? However, the way we become acquainted with characters doesn't just come from conversations, recordings, or reactions, but from letters in the game. These letters act as gateways that reveal glimpses of a day in the life of a survivor. The way Joel reacts to a letter he's read,
Well, that wasn't a good idea, now was it?
the ambient dialogue between the other characters,
Hey, how you doing, little man?
That was a close one, huh?
Yeah, not one of our clients.
and the letters themselves that provide plenty of lore, are a rare ensemble of tapestries that give you an insight into the world of The Last of Us. From the broken down buildings to questionably dangerous dogs, or naughty dogs, to ledges that require two people to climb, you get to see what is left of the US, and presumably the rest of the Earth, after the virus ravaged humanity. As you explore different buildings, you see where families used to live, where a person had their last moments, how some avoided having to live in this world, all without any words needing to be said. To me, world building, when brilliantly coupled with complex characters and a good story, is what separates good games from timeless games. Speaking of the world, I found the game's environment to be immersive and somewhat large. At times, I felt like there was so much more to explore, despite the map being linear and the game's barriers being obvious. Additionally, there were a few subtle design choices that made the game realistic to me. For example, when Joel opens a drawer and it's empty, to me that makes perfect sense. I mean, not every nook and cranny you search will have resources that you can use, especially if you ignore all other objects around you that could act as suitable replacements, or if you're deranged enough to play the game ungrounded. Now, this isn't a content analysis episode, but I do want to talk about Ellie and Joel because I believe that complex characters are the crux of what makes a great story. Unlike the President's daughter in Resident Evil 4, whose name I forgot because she was forgettable, Ellie isn't as helpless and is more than capable of defending herself in Joel. The Last of Us isn't as cinematic as other games, and a major portion of the dialogue takes place in in-game cutscenes, rather than pre-rendered cutscenes. It's subtle features like these that make this game worthwhile to play, because you never know when you might be part of the action. Of course, this applies to a person's first playthrough. Side characters were also memorable, and stakes were always high because all it takes is one mistake to die, or get infected. I also found the psychology used in the story to be profound. It really emphasized the impact of traumatic experiences and lets you see firsthand how it may affect a person's behavior. Gameplay in The Last of Us 1 includes, but isn't limited to, sneaking, choking, shooting, crafting, taking supplements, and reaching into the convenient pocket dimension that is Joel's backpack. For the most part, the gameplay was enjoyable and challenging. However, masterpieces don't exist without flaws. There are times where stealth mechanics are a bit dysfunctional. At times, I couldn't really tell if an enemy could spot me, or how far a clicker's sonar can detect. Other times, you feel like Batman in Arkham City, or Wolverine in X-Men 2, Wolverine's Revenge. Alright, that's the last Logan reference. Wait. Nothing like a few joules of electricity to get the heart going. Don't worry, there are no laws regarding puns around here. Let's move on. Speaking of laws, the 3 laws of robotics would be helpful in The Last of Us due to the AI in this game. Why? Well, sometimes friendly NPCs can get in the way, and for some reason, aren't subject to the same rules as you. They aren't detected by enemies and aren't killed easily by clickers. The only other gripes I have regarding the gameplay are occasional glitches in hit detection, the absence of friendly fire, and the swimming controls. The absence of friendly fire lowered the stakes when saving anyone. Real talk, I spent so much time trying not to hit Ellie, just to realize by the end of the game that it was never a possibility to begin with. Lastly, the swimming controls were oversimplified and rigid, making it difficult to navigate underwater. Also, regarding my points on stealth, combat, and NPC AI, those aspects of the game are just what I thought could have been better. The upgrades to Joel and his weapons increased the game's replayability, in my opinion. I felt pretty unstoppable the second time I played. The bosses were also interesting. From the bloaters to David, each presented a unique challenge that required the player to rely on the skills they refined during their countless battles with zombies and humans. Alright, here's my opinion on the story, and the spoilers that accompany it. As stated earlier, the story is great, if you discount the zombie tropes. That being said, what I really liked about the story is Joel's character development. He went from only valuing the lives of those he cared about first, to opening up and showing that he cared for others as well. This is further demonstrated when he didn't kill Henry, he didn't leave Ellie with Tommy, or when he highlighted the importance of Ellie's immunity and what it could mean for humanity. Joel acts as if he doesn't care on occasion, because he's afraid of feeling the pain of loss of someone close to him once again. Accompanying Ellie to the University of Colorado and expressing his fears to her indicates that he's willing to be vulnerable, demonstrates that he cares, and that he wasn't trying to rid himself of her at the first opportunity available. By the end, he isn't afraid of showing attachment. Although Joel denies humanity the opportunity to obtain a vaccine in the end, because at least in my opinion he feels that they aren't worth saving, there are still positive life changes that he's made, as mentioned earlier. An additional example would be his decision to live at Tommy's settlement with Ellie, which is a community that is trying to build a better future. That's not to say that Joel completely changed. His emotional reasoning caused him to believe that he had no other choice but to save Ellie, then lied to her regarding what happened at the hospital with the Fireflies. The attempted carjacking scene exemplifies the realism of the game, but also highlights the foresight Joel possesses from his past experiences. His experiences with Bill and others more than likely reinforce the mentality that people are selfish, act for their own self-interest, and to survive, you must always remain vigilant and self-dependent. Joel's form of ethics allows him to act immorally, but enables him to protect himself and those he cares about, even if it exposes them to traumatic life-changing experiences. This is evidenced by his conversation with Tommy.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you?
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care. That's what you call it?
I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me!
Ellie is an interesting character as well. Although temperamental and impulsive at times, she is like Joel's polar opposite in terms of personality because she is more open emotionally, still willing to trust people, and is much more of a joker than Joel, at least in this universe. She is afraid of ending up alone, possibly scorpions and death. I mean, who could blame her? Scorpions are terrifying. She adopts an optimistic, humorous attitude, possibly because death looms too closely in a world plagued by infected and dangerous humans. When Joel first meets her, she still has hope that she may be able to help put an end to the virus and save what remains of humanity. She is thankfully unable to fulfill her intended fate as a martyr because of Joel's unwillingness to lose a person he probably sees as his daughter. Which brings us to the ending. By the way, did anyone else see the fingers Ellie grabs during her conversation with Joel? I wonder if that gesture foreshadows anything. Anyway, I thought it was a perfect ending to set up a sequel, because at that point, we don't really know what's going to happen next. But we can sense that the lie Joel told Ellie will be a point of contention between them. In the end, the player is left speculating if Joel acted selfishly, or if he genuinely believes that his choice to save her is what is best for her, and how will Ellie react when she finds out the truth? Considering everything I mentioned in this review, I'd give this game 4.7 Firefly Pendants out of 5 in the action, adventure, and survival horror genre. Well, I guess that pretty much covers the series of The Last of Us. Join me next time when I review...
Still got it.
Thanks for watching another one of my game reviews. If you like this type of content and want to see more, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, as if it had David's face imprinted on it.